Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us is local Ayurveda health counselor at Puget Sound Family a health clinic locally here in Tacoma, Washington. And Ariane Chenard. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, everyone. I will get going then. I'll share my screen. And this. Okay. Thank you for being here tonight for this presentation on using food as medicine, simple ways to choose food that will help you feel better. You are at the right place if you believe that food is important for maintaining good health, but you might be confused by the myriad of dietary recommendations out there. Some might be contradictory and you don't know what diet to choose, what to eat, or you might be a little confused about what types of food make you feel good and what kind of food make you feel not so good. This presentation is for you. The objective of the presentation is for you to realize how food can affect how you feel and to give you simple tools that are easy to use to help you make maybe different food choices that will help you balance symptoms that you might be experiencing. My name is Ariane Chenard, and as Elizabeth mentioned, I'm an Ayurveda health counselor at Puget Sound Family Health here in downtown Tacoma. You can reach me at the email address or phone the clinic. This subject today we'll be talking about is way broader than what I can possibly talk in the amount of time we have. And if you have any questions or if you want to know more about Ayurveda, I'd be happy if you want to contact me. I offer one-on-one consultations, either in person or online. And if you are not sure if Ayurveda is for you, there's a free discovery session that you can request, and that's going to be my pleasure. You can also reach me through my website, elementsofayurveda.com. In there, there's more information about Ayurveda, as well as information about a program, a year-long program I offer on implementing Ayurveda into your lifestyle, and also a digestive assessment quiz if you're interested. That being said, let's get started. The plan of today's presentation is I'll start with a brief introduction about Ayurveda. Not everyone is familiar with what Ayurveda is and how Ayurveda sees food as medicine. Then part one is we're going to be talking about food, qualities of food according to Ayurveda and how we can use these to help us make better choices. Part two is similar to part one in the sense that we can have more information on how to choose the food we use, but this time we're going to be using the tastes, and we'll learn more about their therapeutic effects. And part three is going to be very brief, but I want to introduce the doshas, or vital energies in Ayurveda. You might have heard about Vata, Pita, and Kapha. And these give us a lot of information about the constitution of an individual and what kind of food would be more appropriate, again, depending on the person. Then we'll conclude the presentation and hopefully we have time for a few questions. Okay, why? Okay. What is Ayurveda, first of all? It's an ancient science ancient system of medicine. It was born more than 5,000 years ago in India. And it is born from the same philosophy, the Sankhya philosophy that gave rise to Buddhism and yoga. And that is why you might have heard that Ayurveda is the science, the sister science of yoga. This is the reason. The name itself, Ayurveda, is a Sanskrit word that means science of life and longevity. And it's a constant search of balance in your life to maintain health using diet and lifestyle, mostly. It's a science of habits, meaning that implementing a good habit in your life, build good habits, build upon themselves over time to maintain or bring good health, just as bad habits, even if you don't see the impact right away, over time could bring ill health or even diseases. Ayurveda is not about making the best choice all the time. However, it's about making the better choice most of the time. Ayurveda is also a folk medicine, meaning that everyone can practice Ayurveda. And in fact, everyone does practice Ayurveda to some extent. I believe we are born with the knowledge of Ayurveda, but we might be losing this knowledge as we age, maybe because we don't pay enough attention to how we feel or how our environment affects us. But it's easy, well, it's simple to understand how to gain the Ayurvedic knowledge back. How does Ayurveda see food as medicine? Why does Ayurveda see food as medicine? It's simple. It's because at a very basic level, we are what we eat and digest. It's not only that we need to eat healthy food to stay healthy, we need to digest it properly so it can build what makes what we are. According to Ayurveda, almost every diseases stem from the food we eat that might be unhealthy or not appropriate for our constitution, and or poor digestion. As I mentioned, even if you eat healthy food, if it's not properly digested, you you don't gain the benefits of eating good food, and you might even develop diseases. Digestion, it's not the subject of today's lecture, but it's very important. Food is medicine, and as such, you can make yourself feel better by choosing the right food, or it can hurt you if you do not choose the right food. And in addition, Ayurveda does not do dietary generalization. There's nothing in Ayurveda that is good for everyone in terms of food, because every individual has unique needs and unique imbalances. And for that reason, nothing is really can be is good for everyone or bad for everyone. And we determine what is good or what is not so good by knowing more about someone's constitution and imbalances. Again, I mentioned that digestion is not the subject for today's presentation, but I just want a parenthesis here that the way you eat your food is as important as the food you eat. In this picture, we see someone that is probably stressed, gulping a sandwich in between meeting, not paying attention. And at the end of the day, I would presume that this person has digestive issues, for the simple reason that digestion is a process that takes a huge amount of energy. Up to 60% of our energy is directed toward digestion. And if we are in a state of stress, the body, instead of being in rest and digest mode and putting energy where it needs to go for proper digestion, will not consider digestion a priority and it's not going to be done properly. And this can lead to all sorts of problems. So keep that in mind. And I think a lot of digestive issues in modern society are most likely linked to stress and not taking time to eat peacefully. Well, then, if Ayurveda does not do generalization, dietary generalization, and everyone has unique needs, how do we determine what is good for someone then? It is quite simple. It's not as complicated as it sounds, but we have to go back to very basic understanding of what we add to our body when we eat what we eat, when we choose what we eat. And not only for the food, but just how we feel and what we would like to achieve with the food we eat. And we do that by going back to basics and using Ayurveda's quality of nature, also called the Gunas. There are 20 Gunas in Ayurveda, 20 qualities of nature. They are organized in pairs of opposites, and you'll soon understand why. And each pair of opposites measures something different. Heavy and light is a measure of weight, dull, sharp, measure of intensity, cold, hot, temperature, etc. And the reason why they are organized in pair of opposite goes with the fundamental principle in Ayurveda that likes increase and opposites balance. If I have a lot of one quality in my body, in my environment, and I keep adding the same quality, for example, heaviness or heat, I will at some point reach a state of imbalance. And the first symptoms might be you don't pay too much attention, but if you do not balance yourself back, that can degenerate and lead to all the way to the creation of a disease. Meanwhile, if you have so much of a quality, maybe hot or cold qualities, you feel cold, you can balance yourself using the opposite quality. And here we have again the Gunas. It's why I say that we all practice Ayurveda. If you feel cold, you will wear an extra jacket, for example. If you feel parched, you will drink water. We already do Ayurveda naturally. And that's the very basic way to practice Ayurveda, is just maybe put a little bit more conscience in how you feel, because sometimes we do not pay so much attention. Ayurveda requires that you pay a little bit more attention. So there's these 20 gunas, and here in bold, I highlighted those main that are more important when talking about food, because these gunas can apply to anything in nature that can be qualified. The season, the temperature, the clothes you wear, how you feel, everything, you can apply these gunas. But the main ones when talking about food are those in bold. And if you want to really keep things simple, you could just pick a cold, hot, wet, dry, and maybe heavy and light if you'd want. But I chose these 5 ones. Let's see a few examples of food with these qualities. And you have to remember that it's always relative to one another. Something heavy is heavy compared to something lighter, but it might be lighter than something else. Also, it is a bit subjective, and something that for someone could feel very heavy on the stomach is just fine for another person. So you just keep that in mind. Kind of heavy food would be meat, dairy, root vegetables, stews, things like that, versus leafy vegetables, popcorn or broth, which are lighter. Dull and sharp is a measure of intensity. And dull food are things that have kind of a bland taste on their own. Ice cream, white rice, white potato, avocado, it's pretty bland on its own. Sharp taste is spicy food, spices in general, arugula, which has kind of a pungent taste, lemon, onions, you can feel there's something sharp there. Cold and hot is a measure of temperature. So obviously, if you have a smoothie made with frozen berries compared to a warm soup or cold water and a tea, this is gonna have a different effect on your body. It's gonna bring different quality, either cold or hot. However, there is also the fact that the energetics of food can can be cooling or warming. Cucumbers and coconut are cooling, while spices in general are warming, and ferments are also warming. Ferments meaning alcohol and things like that, vinegars. Oily and wet versus dry is a measure of moistness. Again, it might be due to the preparation of food. Are you eating your vegetable in soup form or roasted? It's always relative. Are you eating dry rice or rice with lots of sauce and oils? That would be more wet. And it's also the ingredients of food themselves. Watermelon is obviously very wet versus popcorn that is very dry. Stable and mobile food is a measure of stimulating, how food is stimulating, or grounding. Stable food, grounding foods, things like bananas, oatmeal, root vegetables are more grounding. They are comforting, while things like vinegars, spices, coffee, aromatics are stimulating and have this effect on the nervous system. How do we use them then, these qualities? Again, keep in mind, likes increase, opposites balance. We'll do a few examples. In the first scenario, I feel heavy and lethargic. I don't have much energy. I feel depressed. These all points to too much qualities of dull, stable, heavy, things like that. I want to avoid bringing more of these same qualities in my body with the food I eat. I want instead to bring opposite qualities. I want things that are light, stimulating, sharp, mobile. This will help balance the symptoms I feel. And this scenario, I'm not talking about someone that is clinically depressed that should be consulting a doctor, but someone that feels off or a bit down for like a week in particular. Eating food with opposite qualities will help balance these symptoms and maybe avoid them becoming so much so that they could go towards a truly depression mode. So you want to avoid heavy, dull, difficult to digest food, want more stimulating food. Things like, these are just examples, vegetables that are lighter, arugula, broccoli, asparagus, leafy vegetables, or mobile stimulating foods as apple cider vinegar, spicy food, lemon, grapefruit, radishes, rice. This is light and stimulating and mobile food. And limit meat, dairy, eggs, sweets, nuts, stews, things like that, that are dull and heavy. In another example, if I feel cold, anxious, scattered, and nervous. In this case, it's basically the contrary of my needs would be the opposite of the previous scenario, because I will need to balance myself things that are heavy and grounding and comforting, and as well as warm. And I want to avoid everything that is light and stimulating and mobile that I recommended for the previous person. That is why what is good for you really cannot be generalized to everyone. It really depends on what you feel. In this case, all the comfort food that was not recommended for the previous person is now something that is good for you. Stew, soup, meats, root vegetables, nuts, avocado, everything that would be in the category of comfort food would be good. And limit or avoid popcorn, salads, spicy food, citrus fruits, etc., that are stimulating and light. This is how you can use the qualities, the gunas, and you have to assess a little bit what is the quality of the food you want to eat or you are about to eat, and the qualities of how you feel. Am I feeling anxious and nervous, so there's too much mobile quality and light quality, or am I depressed and heavy and I just feel I don't have energy, things like that? Or am I too hot or too cold? You don't need to go with a long list, maybe one or two qualities that you feel and that you want to balance, and then you look at the food you're about to choose and choose opposite qualities. Now, with the 6 tastes, it's basically the same. We choose taste that will help balance ourselves. But tastes are great because they give us a ton of information about the food we are about to eat. There are 6 tastes in Ayurveda: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And they are all felt on different areas of the tongue, and they all have different effects on different organs, and they will affect the body and digestion in their own ways. And knowing the taste that we can all start paying attention to and recognize gives us a lot of information about the food we eat. And thus, we can use taste to really help us make better food choices. Let's see what we are talking about with these tastes. The sweet taste. Sweet taste, we all know sweet taste. In Ayurveda, however, it's not only the sweet taste of sugar or sweeteners like honey and maple syrup. It is everything that is building and nourishing. And in this category, it's quite broad. It includes carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. And it includes very varied foods like dates, meat, eggs, grains, dairy, things like that, nuts, sweet potatoes, seafood. These are all sweet in Ayurveda. Sour is a taste that we all can really recognize easily. For just a second, close your eyes and imagine biting in a wedge of lemon. Right, just imagining that and your face crunch and there's kind of tickling in your jaw and you start salivating. That is how powerful the sour taste is. And it is how the effect of sour taste. There's different types of sour. There's acidic fruits like lime and lemon, subacidic fruits like peaches, strawberries, and tomatoes. And there are ferments, which are also considered sour, like alcohol, yogurt, kombucha, and vinegars. And these will have a different effect a little bit. We'll talk about that shortly. Salty taste, simple to know what we're talking about, is table salt, but also things like seaweed or celery. Foods high in minerals are considered salty, and things preserved in salt, obviously, because there's the salt, like anchovies or soy sauce. Bitter taste is the neglected taste in the modern American diet. As much as the sweet taste is the overabundant taste, bitter taste is quite the neglected taste. Maybe because we have a natural aversion to bitter, but it has amazing properties that we'll discuss, and it's worth eating your green vegetables. Everything green basically is bitter, so green vegetables, but things like coffee, black coffee, and dark chocolate are also bitter. And I would argue that maybe people drink a ton of coffee because they might be missing out on the bitter taste in other parts of their diet, maybe, or chocolate craving could be explained possibly by a lack of bitter in the rest of the diet. Spices like turmeric and fenugreek are also bitter. Pungent taste is the spicy, hot, and painful taste in some cases. Things like cayenne pepper, black pepper, spices in general, onion and garlic, especially before they are cooked, and arugula, we can distinguish pungency, and radishes, things like that. They are all pungent, but obviously they have a different level of pungency. Cayenne pepper is much more pungent than radishes. And one thing to understand also is that no food, or maybe salt and lemon possibly, are in only one category. They have maybe a main taste, but they can be in multiple taste category. Astringent taste is maybe the taste that you are least familiar with, because it's less of a taste on the tongue and more a sensation, a drying and puckering sensation on the tongue. If you eat something astringent, you feel your mouth and throat becoming very dry. You might have even difficulty swallowing. This is the astringent taste. Legumes like lentils and beans are astringent. And if you drink pomegranate juice or bite in the seeds, you'll feel this sensation, astringent sensation, without any doubt. Cranberries are also astringent. Green tea, white potato. Have you tried eating a white baked potato without anything on it? No butter, no nothing. It's quite dry and you kind of have to force to go down. So that's the astringent taste. Unripe fruits such as green banana are also astringent. These tastes, they give us a lot of information. And here we see in general effect, you can recognize I have again the gunas, the qualities of nature. These can help us choose the taste that we should limit or that we should increase in our diet. Never avoid entirely. Ideally, you want every taste at every meal, but the amount of one taste is gonna depend on what you want to achieve with the food you eat, but also what it is. The sweet taste, there's always gonna be more of the sweet taste than the pungent or sour taste or salty taste, because sweet is what is nourishing, what gives us energy, basically, what makes tissue, what give us vitality, vigor, and energy and stability in our life. So we want the sweet taste, even though maybe we need to reduce it in some cases. In general effect of the sweet taste is cooling, heavy, and oily. And here I put a little star on cooling effect, because although most food with sweet taste are cooling, not all are. Red meat, for example, is heating, and seafood as well is heating, and egg yolk, for example, are heating. So there's different things, but most other sweet things are cooling, like dairy and cheese and things like that. Root vegetables, things like that. So that's the taste that is promoting growth of tissue that is nourishing, and it's great in adequate quantities. Too much of the sweet taste though, and we could be starting to put on weight and maybe feel a bit sluggishness and stagnation. Sour taste has the quality of being heavy, unctuous, and warming, and it increases secretions. First thing, just thinking about biting in lemon and you start salivating, that's how powerful it is. And because of that, because it brings out saliva in the mouth, it improves taste because you need saliva to taste. And it also improves digestion by moistening the lining of the digestive tract and enlivens the mind. If you sharpens the senses and enlivens the mind, if you feel a bit dull, sour taste might be the thing that's going to stimulate you a little bit. Too much though, and it could provoke congestion. Salty taste is heating, heavy, and oily or moistening mostly. And like sour taste, it stimulates secretions, and for that reason, improve digestion. It is a laxative and help relieve gas, but we don't want to go in excess with the salty taste, because since it attracts water towards it, too much salt can lead to water retention and high blood pressure, edema, and things like that. Bitter taste is light, drying, and cooling. It's a great taste for cleansing, and it dries up secretions. If these days you have a lot of allergies and you feel full of mucus and have congestion and too much going on, bitter taste is good for drying up these secretions. It also stimulates peristalsis and the release of bile in liver and gallbladder. And bile helps with digestion of fat, so bitter is good for that. And it's the most cooling taste, so it's helpful with burning sensation, either in the digestive tract or on the skin, like heat imbalance. Bitter taste is the taste for that. Great for skin disorders associated with heat and toxicity. Pungent taste is light, drying, and heating. So same as bitter taste, but instead of cooling, it's quite heating. And it's the best taste if you have a sluggish digestion or you have stagnation. It helps kindles digestion and improves absorption. It breaks stagnation and it gets things moving. You might have experience if you eat a spicy meal, you start sweating, your nose is running. That's what it does. Like it gets things moving and going out, and that's how it is ultimately drying. And since it improves circulation and most of our immunity is in our circulatory system, it's also good for improving immunity. If you have the onset of a cold, pungent taste is very helpful. Drink ginger tea, maybe make yourself a chai tea, you will be helping yourself. The astringent taste is cooling, heavy, and drying, and it's very helpful to absorb excess moisture. Just the sensation that we get in the mouth from eating astringent food will do the same thing along the GI tract, and it helps absorb excess moisture. It improves absorption, and it's very useful in case of loose stools. It helps bind the stool together in case of diarrhea, for example. Again, diarrhea without fever. Fever means infection, and we wouldn't want to keep that in the body in this case. It is also anti-inflammatory and help hold tissues together. It is a tonic. These are the properties of the 6 taste. So you can keep the general effect in mind and the idea of what effect they have on the body and digestion when you choose your food. And how do you choose your food? What kind of food should you eat? It depends. How do you feel and what do you want to achieve? Let's do a few more examples. In scenario 1, I want to lose weight, for example. Well, in that case, without having like a very strict set of rules, you can understand why you would need to limit heavy, dull, stable food and increase light, sharp, stimulating foods. So you do not have like strict rules of eat this, not that. You understand food more with the qualities that they would bring into your body. In terms of taste, that translates in eating less of the sweet, salty, and sour tastes because they are all heavy, nourishing, and promote water retention, and eat more pungent, bitter, and astringent tastes, which would bring stimulating, cleansing, light, and drying qualities. A plate for a person who wants to lose weight could look like half the plate is vegetables, mostly green, and a quarter is lean protein, a quarter carbohydrates. You don't want to eliminate the sweet taste. Again, this is what sustains you, the sweet taste. But you could protein, instead of going for meat, you could choose something that is more astringent, in this case, something like chickpeas. And you can make your choices like that. Minimal or no dairy, and well-spiced. Well-spiced because it's gonna improve digestion, it's gonna move fluids, it's gonna be drying and light. That is an example of what you could be doing in this case. In another scenario, if I feel dry and I'm constipated. First thing first, if you feel dry, you need to increase the amount of fluids you take and also the moisture in your food. Avoid dry food, eat more moist food. Favor soups instead of dry meals. You want to limit pungent, bitter, and astringent tastes because they are all drying. And you want to eat more sweet foods and increase possibly the amount of oils and fats in your diet. They are part of the sweet taste, and they are crucial for improving the wet, oily qualities in your body. Not just water, but oils and fat as well might be necessary. You may want to add extra salt to your food or even to your water if you feel like you're drinking and it goes straight through you without really being absorbed. Then adding a pinch of salt in your water and a squish of lime or lemon will add electrolytes to your water and will make absorption easier. So a salty lemonade, which is the Ayurvedic Gatorade, or drink broth, vegetable or chicken broth. It's full of minerals. It's going to be absorbed easier. Another example is if you have hot temper, burning indigestion, skin rashes. All these things point to too much hot and sharp qualities in your body. And to balance that, you go the opposite way. You need cooling and soothing food. Avoid or limit because you always want a little bit of each taste, but pungent, salty, and sour taste or foods that have these tastes, because they are heating and sharp and would just increase these qualities in your body. And favor sweet, bitter, astringent foods that are all cooling. And here I give an example of a possible meal that would be quite cooling at the end of the meal. If you eat chicken white, which is less heating than the brown meat, rice and lentils, avocado, cooked kale, salad with lime sauce. Lime is not as heating as other sour taste, and applesauce for dessert. This would be cooling. If this person were to eat a big steak and drink wine, at the end of the meal, they might want to fight with someone, whether if they eat something like that, maybe they'll want to make friends with someone. It should help keeping their temper in check and just these qualities in them. And I forgot to mention, in the sour taste, it is heating, but at different levels. And ferments like alcohol are the most heating. So if you have heat imbalance in your body, ferments such as alcohol, kombucha, yogurts, and things like that, you might want to limit your intake of that. So this is how you use qualities and taste to direct you toward food choices that are more appropriate for how you feel, and hopefully help you balance your symptoms and help you feel better. Let's just mention food cravings. What do they tell us? And are they healthy or unhealthy? Well, they are both. In Ayurveda, they are healthy craving, those craving that is a way for the body to tell you what it needs. If you spend a day outside working and you've sweated a lot, you've lost a lot of minerals through your sweat, and you need to replenish that, and you might be craving salt and something salt. So you should indulge in this craving because you understand that it's going to be balancing for you. Or if you have done some arduous work and you feel you want something rich, well, that's a healthy craving. However, if you indulge into a craving and you continue because you just like it, at some point it might not bring anything to balance yourself. You have to ask yourself, if you are really craving sweet food, for example, this is a common craving, what is your body telling you? Maybe it's because it's craving grounding and it's because you're stressed. It's not necessarily that you need the nourishment, but you need more the aspect of groundedness. And in this case, because I'm just talking about food, but around all what we eat, we have to consider what's going on and how we can, with our lifestyle, how we can deal with some aspect of what is affecting us. And in this case, maybe sweet cravings that has been on long and that does not balance ourselves. We might be gaining weight. Maybe that's something else under that, and that's the craving for groundedness, and you have to consider that. So ask yourself, what do my craving tell me, and what is it that I need? Am I balancing myself by indulging in my craving, or am I going even further out of balance? Last part, very briefly, the doshas, or vital energies. In Ayurveda, if you consult an Ayurvedic practitioner, that's the first thing they will assess for you is your constitution. We all have the 3 doshas in us, but in unique proportion. That is what is making us unique. These vital energies are responsible for all processes in our body, according to Ayurveda, and they are made up of different elements. Everything, according to Ayurveda, is made up of 5 elements. And these doshas, they are responsible for different things. Vata is the notion of movement, respiration, and elimination. Everything that moves in the body is Vata dosha. Pita is very much heat, transformation, and metabolism. And Kapha is structure, growth, nourishment, and lubrication. And you'll see that these doshas have themselves a list of qualities of gunas, same that we discussed previously. And this is why if you get your constitution, if you know your constitution, am I more of a Vata person or Pitta person or Kapha, or am I more Pitta Vata or Pita kapha, because there's all sorts of mix, and even 2% with that have been told your Pita kapha will be different. Which of these qualities do you have more naturally in your body? It's going to tell us which imbalance you are more prone to go towards. A Vata person, which is very light and mobile and dry, will tend to have these types of imbalance, maybe feeling anxious and scattered and nervous and dry. That would be a Vata imbalance. Pitta, which has a fire element, is all imbalances that are heat related, things like that. And kapha, which is more structure and stability and lubrication, imbalances are more in the order of too much accumulation, so weight gain, lethargy, stability, and maybe water retention. And these, knowing what is your constitution, what are your imbalances, can tell you a lot of information about what kind of food you should choose as well. This concludes this presentation. And just to go back to what we discussed, the qualities of the food we eat increase the same qualities in our body and can bring us out of balance. And symptoms we are experiencing can be balanced by eating foods that have opposite qualities. The tastes of food give a lot of information about the quality of the food and their overall effect on digestion and the body. And all that being said, if you pay attention to how you feel and you choose your food accordingly, according to what you want to balance, it's going to help you stay balanced and healthy. And that is how we use food as medicine in Ayurveda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yay! Virtual claps. Aw, yay. We have some people doing some thank yous. Excellent presentation, very informative. I learned a lot. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here, everybody.
Thank you. And I can take questions if anyone has questions.
Thanks so much, Ariane. That was great.
Thank you.
I found a really great download from your website. I'm going to put it here in the chat box. If it will let me, there we go. And feel free, folks, to unmute yourselves at this time, ask our expert any questions.
In the chat or directly, my pleasure. I'll answer anything I can.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this chart that I got from your website. And I just put it in the chat box for everyone, so feel free to download that. It's a really great synopsis of all the structures of all that you just talked about, so people will be able to reference that. And I also put earlier in the chat box ways to get a hold of our wonderful presenter and contact, but I will enter that back in. Oh, perfect. Great questions. So Tanya asked, what are some of your favorite balancing combinations? Say I like kimchi and rice. That's hot and dull. Do you have some favorite combinations?
I don't know if I have favorite like that I could come like favorite combinations, but the best food is balanced food in my opinion. And if you use all the taste in the food you eat and you make sure you have a little bit of every taste, even a very simple meal is gonna be satisfying. So a little pungency, a little salt, bitter, astringent, sweet, and a squish of lime or lemon on top. You don't need a ton of sour taste, obviously. And it makes a great meal. But yeah, this person, Tanya, you understand when you have something sharp, you balance with something dull. And that's how you make good food, basically.
Beautiful. I really love that. It's kind of similar to eating the rainbow, but eating with the senses.
Yeah.
Oh, and Patricia asked, when primarily a Pitta person begins to constantly overthink, is there any specific food to consider? That's a good question.
Yeah, good thinking. Well, overthinking for a Pitta person is excess, I would say, of sharp quality, like the sharp mind. And soothing, cooling food is always good for a Pitta. Soothing food like sweets, not to abuse the sweeteners, but sweet food, comforting food would be good for Pitta in that sense. But beside food, that person would need maybe a gratitude practice, or having an environment which is soothing, like making the environment soothing as well, with maybe essential oils, like smell of rose, go outside and smell a flower, and nature is very soothing for a Pitta person. Otherwise, in terms of food, it's going to be cooling. So bitter taste, astringent taste, and sweet taste are the taste for a Pitta person.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to check Facebook Live here, see if we have any questions there. Oh, perfect. Someone said thank you on the Facebook Live. That's so wonderful.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And again, if you're not thinking about a question right now, but something comes up after, do not hesitate to reach out to me at Puget Sound Family Health and or on my website. And I offer free discovery sessions. You could just use that and ask a few questions, or ask if you want to know more about Ayurveda in general, or if Ayurveda would be a good fit for you. But as I said, we all do Ayurveda to some extent, but sometimes we need a little reminder, because we don't necessarily think about how food affects us. I feel like we sometimes might just eat because we need to eat. There's Kelly Latimer that has raised her hand.
Yeah, hi. First of all, just thank you for sharing all this information. Sorry I'm not on video, but I'm in my car, hands-free. Anyway, my question is, the more knowledge and understanding you have of eating this way, can it also help along with, other things? Can it help with things like diabetes and, eczema and like actual like health conditions that people in my family have, is why I'm asking.
Yes, Ayurveda is a great complement to traditional Western medicine, because you actually find the cause of imbalances that lead to diabetes or eczema or things like that. And you change a few habits here and there, the way you eat, the type of food, and then you can manage symptoms better like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have like specific things to say about diabetes, because like again, everyone is unique, and eczema or diabetes, like there's some main imbalances, but it can vary from person to person what are the root causes of such diseases.
And following this, this will help the body create natural homeostasis and in hope balance all that out.
Yeah, the body is an amazing machine, and it works all the time to balance itself. And a good state of health, a balanced person, it's not so easy to bring out of balance. But once you're out of balance, and if you don't know what brought you out of balance and you continue, that can lead to issues that are more important. And like just it's not this today's subject, but it's just to make you understand how Ayurveda is about prevention. There are 6 stages of diseases in Ayurveda. And the first stage, it all starts in the digestive tract. So if you have a little bit of bloating, or this is the first stage of disease in Ayurveda. And if you get diagnosed with a disease by a Western doctor, you are already in stage 5. So Ayurveda is all about prevention. So if you have some digestive imbalances, and it's just starting, it's relatively easy to balance back and then avoid getting worse and worse all the way to the development of a disease. If you are at stage 5, you've been diagnosed with a disease, Ayurveda can help just eliminate the cause and help you bring back to balance. But of course, that would be, in this case, along with medical doctors and Western medicine. Yeah.
Perfect. I have a question about the seasons. Do the seasons also correlate with Ayurveda?
Yes, everything affects you, like your environment, and like from hours to hour, from day to day, depending on what you ate, like the body is in constant struggle for balance, really. And seasons affect how you feel, how you digest, how everything that happens in your body. For example, in the summer, digestion is much weaker because you want to keep cool, and all the blood that is otherwise to your core goes to your extremities. While in winter, that's when it is normal to crave hearty food and heavier food. And that's when you digest it better. If you are in the heat of the summer, you preferably want to avoid like heavy, difficult to digest meal, keep it light, keep it cool. And yeah, the seasons affect everything, really. And you have to just think, okay, the weather today, not that you have to make big changes, but if you just realize how, okay, today it's heavy and gray and I feel heavy because of that, well, then today eat a little less heavy food, you'll feel just better. But if it's super windy and very light and you start feeling a bit more scattered, then bring back the heavier food. It's always a balance like that.
I love that. Thank you.
Where there are, yes, Jennifer asked a question, as there organs on the 6 taste chart. Yes, on the tongue. I don't know if I can share my screen again, just there are organs here. And according to Ayurveda, tastes are felt in different areas of the tongue, and they affect different organs and different stages of digestion again as well. That's kind of deeper into digestion, but like sweet taste is more at the tip of the tongue, bitter, different organs.
That's so interesting how it all maps out like that on our tongues.
Yeah. And digestion affect the mind affect digestion. It's all related. And that's why I thought it was really important to say that eating, if you are stressed, is a really bad idea. If you are stressed and you still need to eat, just take a moment, a minute, take a few deep breaths and pay attention to your meal and try to really be present, because it's gonna really make a difference on how you're gonna digest your food.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Thank you all. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, is there a...
thank you. Thank you, Annette, for being here. And thank you, everyone who were able to join us this evening. We will be live streaming this to our Facebook Tacoma page. So feel free to send the link to your family and friends and loved ones to share this information. And we thank our wonderful presenter. Thank you so much for being here. We're just so grateful for this partnership with Puget, Puget Sound Family Health. They've been a staple in the community for many years, and we are just so grateful.
Thank you. Oops. I don't know if I froze or... I don't know if I froze. Oh, okay.
I can hear you, so
Okay, so
sorry, the host did.
okay, the host. So at least I did not. Hopefully, I don't know that I froze during the presentation. Good thing. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here, and I hope it is useful for you in just how you think about food and think about how you feel, and just from day to day, make little choices, little adjustments, and that will hopefully bring you some relief for some symptoms, or help you feel better. And I think it's gonna be the end. So I will end the presentation now. Thank you, everyone. Bye.